around 800,000 Tibetan children into boarding schools, where they are taught in Mandarin.
珍惜这个好的条件啊，好好上学，你们的人生会有很多的机会。
The government told us the boarding schools are important in a region with a highly scattered population and are examples of human rights and cultural heritage protection. In recent years, the program has expanded to include children as young as 4.
I hope every Tibetan will speak both Tibetan language as well as Mandarin. Why? Because if you do not speak Mandarin, then it will be more difficult for you to find a more meaningful job, and you will be more handicapped in communicating with the rest of the country.
The Xi Jinping mission is to say we have to start from childhood. So now the policy is to have kindergartens teaching in Chinese language, to get them speaking Chinese, and basically only Chinese, when they're in a kindergarten. They're all going to become more Chinese.
Harvard Douglas Lokan Chemone, Umrabe, Chakishe, Lakbar Kongsa Chogi, Uo Pondeki, Zenche Pemi Dixuki, Siko Tengni Nang, Tanda Harvard Douglas Lokan to Timluki, Gegen, Chemo, Nang Shimbayin.
Judge Today, we're honored to welcome a very special guest today, Dr. Lobsang. He's a proud graduate of Tibetan Refugee School, a two-term Sikyong of the Central Tibetan Administration, and holds a PhD from Harvard University. He now serves as a lecturer at Harvard Law School. Please join me in giving a round of warm applause for Dr. Lobsang.
Both 깨쳐라서 나 나대 깨치고 싶지 그거도. So good news is BTS is coming back. Now I believe Lisa and her gang are also coming back. Right? Is that good news? Yeah. What happens to Taylor Swift then? Swifties. How many Swifties? I can see many pink wonjus here. Yeah. I can see the Kansa doing Kansa the Gorshe Lagar. Those wearing pink wonju, I always think they're Swifties. Reve. Okay, show your loyalty, huh? BTS? Or Taylor Swift? Oh, Taylor Swift gaji duda. Oh my goodness, yeah. So that's the good news. And what else? I think most of you are BTS fans, right? She's good. My point is, we came all the way from Tibet to India to Canada, and we are getting westernized, Americans and Canadian culture. But ultimately, what we'll end up being a fan of Asian pop artists, yes or no? And then ultimately we'll end up start liking what? Korean food. Actually, I'm planning to go to Koreatown tomorrow night, most likely. Because if I go tonight, if I overdrink soju, I might get a little bit of hangover. So tomorrow, as the chief guest of His Holiness 90th birthday celebration, I can't come here little, groggy, right? So I said, no, tomorrow evening. So I'll celebrate in a big way in Koreatown with everything. And how many of you have watched this documentary before? Very good. So what this shows is actually, it's very clear. What the Chinese government is trying to do is get into the mindset of young Tibetan children in Tibet and make them Chinese and also communist. Meaning they want you to like about Chinese and China. But also by being communist, they want you to hate Tibetan. Your Tibetan tradition, Tibetan culture, Tibetan identity. So that's why, one of the experts say that when they spend few months in these boarding schools, children, when they come back, first thing what they say, they say, they stop talking to their grandparents. First, they can't communicate, and they start saying, grandparents, your thinking is too old, too backward, too feudal. If I be like you, then I won't be successful in my life. So they are trying to cut you from your roots. So we are very close to our grandparents. But you can't cut your children from parents because you are dependent on your parents. Their strategy is very sinister. They want to cut you from your grandparents first. Project your grandparents as backward, as stupid. They don't know about modernism. They don't know about technology. And once you do that, then their battle plan, the 50% is done. And then they will try to make you, now they have made you like Chinese, okay? Now they want to make you communist. Then they will make you hate your tradition, your custom. So that's their plan. And they say this is the final solution or the final plan. Because if you look at the map of the world, first I'll tell you all sad stories, okay? Then we'll come about positive stories as well. If you Google, if you just say, type Tibet, it's non-existent. Right? Can you find Tibet in the map of the world? You don't. For 70 years, the Chinese government made efforts, pressured so many people, including publishing companies, governments, to remove Tibet from the map of the world. So they have succeeded that. Now they are pressuring many countries to change Tibet to Xizang. You know? Or you don't know this? Yes, now they're telling governments and countries, you can't say Tibet, Tibet. You must say Tibet is Xizang. So once Tibet, the term disappears also from the dictionary, from the official languages of different governments, who do we become? If you say, I'm Tibetan, they say, Tibet is not even in the map. And they will say, but there is Tibet. No, there is no Tibet now. How many of you are from Nepal? Parents are from Nepal. So if you read Nepali newspapers nowadays, or listen to Nepali news media, they don't use the term Tibet. They say Xizang. So they want to remove Tibet, the word Tibet, from the language of the world and make them call you Xizang. Then who do you become? If I say I'm Tibetan, no. If you are from Xizang means you are Zhangren. You are Zhang. Or Xizangren. See, that's their strategy. Now, this with this pressure, now there's a case going on in France, right? 2 museums, they changed the term Tibet to Xizang. And Tibetans in France protested, again, mainly led by youth. Thousands of Tibetans came out and protested against this museum. For every Wednesday, every weekend, for so long, and one museum agreed to change the word from Xizang back to Tibet. So this is a youth-led movement, okay? They succeeded. The other museum has changed the word Xizang to Himalaya. Now there's a court case now being filed by Tibetan youth. So, I was just talking to a group of youth. We all go through this, right? Who am I? Am I a Tibetan? Am I Canadian? Or am I Indian? Because I like idli, I like dosa, I like samosa, right? And of course, I like momo thukpa, And then, of course, I'm in Toronto, so I went to Tim Horton and paid my homage to Canadian coffee. Who am I? And I was just telling, you are third generation, your mindset is a bit complex. But for me, it's very clear. When I applied to Harvard Law School, okay, this is a long winding story. The first time when I applied to 9 law schools in America, all rejected me. But I didn't give up hope. Next year I applied again. Out of 9, 8 accepted me. Why? Because I changed what you call statement of purpose, your story. At the final passage or the paragraph, I wrote saying that, I am a Tibetan and I want to be a freedom fighter because when I die, I don't want to die with regrets, thinking that I could have done this and done that for Tibet. So that's why I want a freedom fighter. Now, if Harvard Law School admits me, then I will be a better freedom fighter because I'll get the education, I'll get the exposure and all that. But my final line was, with or without Harvard, I know I will die without regrets. Meaning, I said, I will become freedom fighter, even if Harvard Law School doesn't give me admission. Now the Dean of Admission, she met with me and she said, oh, when I read that line, I got goosebumps because you're rejecting Harvard. You're saying, admit me. If you don't admit me, it's okay. I know what I want to do. I want to be a freedom fighter. That line got me admitted to 8 of the 9 law schools in second year, when all 9 schools rejected me in first year. So my point is, when I get up, I think I'm a Tibetan. And I know when I sleep, I think like a Tibetan. And I will die as a Tibetan. So I have this, clarity in mind. That first I'm a Tibetan, then second I'm Indian, now I'm American. So you also, again, this is my, appeal to you, okay? You should think you are a Tibetan first. And then you are Canadian second. My advice is always, integrate, but don't assimilate. What the Chinese government is trying to do is assimilate you. Make you completely into Chinese and forget everything about Tibet. So you should take advantage of Canadian system. You should be grateful to Canadians. You have friends, you hang out, you do all that. But you should always think, I am a Tibetan first. You are a Canadian citizen, for sure. Legally you are Canadian. But emotionally, your character, your values, your identity, first should be Tibetan. That will help you. And then also to the group I was saying, why I say I'll die as a Tibetan, and I'm proudly, because I've served as, the Sikyong of Tibetan government exile for 10 years. And I have done research. Now I'm writing a book on democracy in exile. Comparative government exiles historically, now, and there are 60 exile communities much bigger than us. There's 6 or 7 million Venezuelans in exile, 1 or 2 million Nicaraguans, more than a million Afghans, Belarusians, Uyghurs, of course Hong Kongers. And now I am an advisor or consultant to many of them. In fact, a group, some of the leaders of Hazara Afghans are coming to meet with me. Today, maybe, I'll meet them tomorrow, most likely. They also have Hazara World Council. It's their own kind of government exile type. And the president is here in Toronto. And they all want to learn from us. Why? Because among the 60 exile communities, even though some of them are millions, we are the best and the most successful exile community in the whole world. Our government exile performs better than many of the governments of independent countries. This is a fact. Now, even in Toronto, how many exile communities are there? Several, if not many. And how many communities have a chigang like this? Many of them come and rent this place. Even though we are a very new community, we are very enterprising, we are very hardworking, we are very successful. So that's why we all should be very proud that I am a Tibetan, even though politically we lost our country because Chinese, illegally, by sheer force and by sheer number, we lost our country. Otherwise, we had, I'm sure you watched the movie, Chuchugon movie, right? We are very brave Tibetans who fought, took up arms and fought and died. If our number was bigger, or if the Chinese number was smaller, we could have given them good fight like the Ukrainians are doing against Russians. Definitely. It's just that number-wise, they brought 200,000, battle-hardened PLA soldiers to Tibet. And we barely had 2,000, official army of Tibet. An additional maybe 20,000 militia altogether. 200,000 and 20,000 just by number, there is no competition. Otherwise, even if it was, 100,000, 200,000, we could have given them quite a tough fight. Tibetans are that brave. So even though we lost our country, really, I have met all these exile communities, the Venezuelan leaders, Nicaraguan leaders. I'm a consultant. They all are asking me, give me advice. How can we establish a successful government exile like yours? So, again, if you look at as I said in the small group also, our literacy rate is 96%. India's literacy rate is 82%. Our Peshuloktas in schools are funded by the government of India. But our result is better than India's. Our result is better than Bangladesh or Nepal. Even though it's a refugee community, we have outperformed everybody. And we're also very hardworking. We're very enterprising. And politically, we have such a high profile. Where, when we say we have only 200,000 Tibetans in exile, people don't believe. Because our profile is so high. They say we are like 7 million Venezuelans and 2 million this and 1 million this. How come we have such high profile? Even the Taiwanese now, because of potential war, our profile was higher than Taiwanese. So my point is, Chinese government in Tibet, they are trying to make Tibetan into Chinese. And we should be determined to think that I am a Tibetan and I'll defeat their policy and their strategy by becoming more Tibetan. Now I will end, I don't want to, we will have more Q&A, that will be more fun. I'll end by saying another successful story we have is the Hakar. And obviously Toronto Hakar is watched by everybody. Set the trend, I must admit. And we have an elderly mom, and obviously you have turned on YouTube, and first thing she does is either watch, His Holiness teaching or Gorshe. And it starts from Toronto to Dharamsala. And recently I found, even in Ladakh, obviously Paris, the Samal Yoruba, Ladakh also, Rabangla Shija. Rabangla Shija is such a small Shija, but more than 100 people were dancing with Lagar. Again, this movement is so beautiful. The Lagar. From Lhasa to Chengdu to Toronto to New York, everywhere. This is a youth-led movement. It's your movement. This is an assertion of your identity, of your culture. This is a huge punch, heavyweight punch to Beijing effort. You say you want to assimilate Tibetan into Chinese, you want Tibetans in Tibet to forget your identity and culture. We will dance our way, sing our way, wear beautiful chuba and wonju, and point a finger at you and say, you will not succeed. We, the younger generation, will stand on our feet and make beautiful feet movements. Such a beautiful assertion. This is a youth-led, bottom-up revolution. We all should celebrate and consider this a success. So you're already doing a major contribution towards the Tibetan cause. And in Paris, I was told that, again, when I was Sikh from 2011 to 2021, first 1 or 2 years, I had to go to, communities. So all the uncles and like us and aunties, they used to come and dance, perform, because we all were taught in Pijungrata. Then after third, fourth, fifth year, I could see young kids, also dancing on stage. I had to, watch performance. And I said, I like that. But then those days, parents used to complain. Their request to me was, please tell our kids to go to Sunday school, to learn Tibetan language and Tibetan song and dance. And I used to always say, younger generation, go to Sunday school, okay? You are good, you are a good child. Listen to your parents. Nowadays, the complaint is reverse. Children are dragging their parents to Sunday school. Oh, I have to go to Sunday school. I have to go learn this dance and sing on, Lagar. Right? And I think maybe it's a mom in Toronto. Oh my God, it's too expensive. Every month I have to buy chuba and wonju for my daughter and son, It's so expensive. Nowadays in the, even in Majduga Tila, they charge 45,000 for a pair of chuba and all this, sets. That's like, 600-700 Canadian dollars. Every month I can't afford that. Yeah. Parents are complaining, I believe. And I told in Paris, I said, hey, moms, and dads also. Moms, one Chanel bag can get you 100 chubas. So it's better to invest in 100 chubas than one Chanel bag. No? Or Gucci bag. Moms are hiding their faces. Oh my God, I think he saw my Chanel bag. And then, there's a fun there. So there is also competition now. So, those who have the most expensive bag, I believe they put it on the table, even though there's no space, okay? Those who have lesser expensive bags, Chanel or Gucci, they put it in the front because they want everybody to see. And then one here and one at the back. Those who hide under the table is the cheapest one. So I tell my mom, all the moms, buy more chuba for your kids. It's part of the revolution. It's assertion of your identity and culture and values. And you all look beautiful, huh? My goodness, Toronto is so much in demand, Rava. But I must say, there's a tough competition coming. Even from Ladakh, I saw the dancing movements. It's coming. But then all this collectively is a message to Beijing. You can try all you want, but in exile, we, the younger generation, will dance our way to the freedom of Tibetans. Now you might wonder, how can we dance our way to freedom of Tibet and Tibetans? South Africa, if you watch the South African movement, They love to dance and sing. Even the civil rights movement in America, every Sunday, in their best dress, they sing their way when they were marching. So singing and dancing is also part of the movement. So you tell your parents, okay, when they say, no, we work so hard, you say, I'm also working so hard. But dancing every Hakar as part of the movement, I'm also contributing. So you all are contributing, and through this contribution, and we all can, lead our way towards freedom and justice in Tibet. So with that, I'll end my note. And then I like good questions, okay? So throw at me the toughest, most complex questions, because I teach at Harvard Law School to law school graduate students, and I do get tough questions, and I like tough questions. So with that, thank you very much for organizing, and I want to thank the president and of the station, Hamakochu, everybody for the opportunity.
Are the Canada like pay the pay machine consola Kande like Tapshi Kande Siri pay Yaga Chala like problem solved Chala.
Ale pui pöge jangya le.
Hong Kajan Chile
Machine is sola. Tangborova Chiran Pebe Yimbachidwa Dilapoche. I would say. Pevegi some porch at vacation and the Pevegi lingu Pevegi President David on the legacy at the vacation. This one's the machine is you another consular can't to one on can't show Yorba Hagar la show Sanjul Lopta la show Chigang la show la Chetawu tea you in vacation. How say Kazu Tillingrova. And consumption could solve it. Ale, Madelena, Nalamolian Chigudu, Made Kibudu, Getchesadu, Tobochagudu, Tomochagudu, Lagrova, Consola Tango, Pebe Yin Samia de la Gachugo. Mango machine at the Arena, the Arena Canada, Europe now in Sere. Gaja Kazu make high stay, Gaja Chu double the Yorba, Gaja Nungdala. Yajanga, Yajichu double dinner yesterday. My Pebe me, Pege Jangdo me, Pege Shingdo me, Pebe Chizo like Dugme, either it's too boring, Yoruba, Kakutu, and Chicks, and Yang Gashidwa, and Chick did it, and it did some years yesterday. There's called Tia Package. Never did the Shungan Alreda, T. Yungruba, Togose, Tomose, never did the Gabasola. Gabasola and something got you time the mountain. Yoruba. Pöge machine not shoot Dukja Lagoya. The data Dukja Marwaya, Pöge machine would give them Mango Shujo. Could you tongue Tana one, Shunga Gashichi, Alapala, Chik Amla, could you shoot down through? Then there's some young Dosha in zero, didn't it? Kansanaya, Pamasoy, make Gambasoreda. Sam comes Sigdova. Emotion, psychology, emotional intelligence, they go to a back hitching Russia. Poco Chunju Gabni, Shetan, Labdan de Madignareda, Poco Dodging, Poco Sheni, Poco Yorba Muni, Russia Gdwa. This Oxani, Gambatsoke, Gajutan, Numrutam. Roger Pepper Pege machine, Shamte, the Chichela, Duja, the Pujetan window. Kali Sutan to Jerova, Chena Pevanim to Jua, Can Hagar Takaju, Yorba, Hagar you can Rosho, can Nimba Tewo, and Pagela, Italy Zongage, this Sashos can Harenes again in Yorba, Saniba Jite, Tangshan, Kali, Koyu dig Suyungua, and the Hagar Zamling or Kadening Jevo, the man Shunga, Genkin Lake Yorba. And it's Shumbatsoge Chigla Tiyu, Nigel Tiyu at Beckhetcham. Does that help? So I say you should be, those who don't speak and don't want to speak, you should gently bring them to the Tibetan community, to Tibetan events, You should spend a little bit more time and bring them to Hakar every Wednesday, make them watch, and slowly make them feel included And after some time, make them feel liked. And then make them proud. Okay? Yeah.
My question is, what psychological or emotional effects have been observed in children who are separated from their families and communities at such a young age?
What kind of psychological, emotional trauma?
Effects.
Effects? In what sense? Because you are Tibetan. And in the colonial boarding school. Oh yes, it's traumatizing, because first of all, most of the Tibetans, especially in Tibet, is a joint family. Grandparents, parents, agu, they all live together, right? And they're uprooted from that family and taken to boarding school, all of a sudden in a very foreign, alien kind of environment, and told them, you should be proud of being Chinese, you should learn Chinese language, you should appreciate Chinese values and Chinese food. And their schools sometimes, when they start at 7 a.m., ends at 7 p.m. If you spend 12 hours in one school, suddenly you're uprooted. Then it's very traumatizing. Emotionally, it really affects them very badly. So that's why they say after 2-3 months, when they come home, first thing they do is they keep distance from their grandparents. They say whatever grandparents do is feudal, is backward. We should not do this. We should march forward, be more modern, be more Chinese. And it's really traumatizing. That's why many of the people, also in America, even in Canada, the colonial boarding school, their children, when they are adopted by white Canadians or Americans, later they realize that, my goodness, they were completely assimilated, brainwashed into these things. And then they revolt. By the time they revolt, sometimes it's too late, because they are completely uprooted from their culture, values, and language, So this is a major challenge in Tibet. That's why we should be very empathetic towards them. And so that's why, all we can do is set example for them. Today you're wearing Chuba Wonju, showcasing to Tibetans inside Tibet. We feel you, but this is the way we are living. Even though we are in free world, we can choose to be Canadian, but we are proud Tibetan. We are dressed, we speak Tibetan, we dance our way. So that's how you can, communicate and set example.
Tashidile ngaming la deyangi nga tiwadi ingetoni shugi. What strategies can youth use to engage their peers who feel disconnected from their Tibetan cause of identity?
Say it again, this is your third question, right? Yeah? She's the last one. What strategies can you use to engage? Is that one? Okay. Oh. Mari, that was your question also, no? Maribe. So ask the question, what strategies can you use to engage their peers where? Who may think disconnected from Tibetan cause and identity? But that I think I gave the first answer, First you must make them feel included. I think you must make some efforts to be friendly with them, gently, and then bring them to Tibetan events, Tibetan community, Lakar. And then elder generation also should not scold them. We really, sometimes we are very harsh. We say, oh, if you don't speak Tibetan, you are ashamed. You are ashamed as you. I think we should not do that. We should be more encouraging and understanding as to why some people are disconnected. Because, for some it's very overwhelming. where am I? I would rather choose to be Canadian or American or Westerner than a Tibetan. And they just get disconnected, Some are so focused in their studies, and they would rather spend all their time in studies and spend time with the Tibetan community. And then some families are so disconnected, they're out of the community, and they don't have Sunday schools. So the elder generation should be, understanding, and the younger generation should, talk to them, chat with them, and bring them.
My question for you is, what are the core objectives of the Chinese residential school system in Tibet, and how do they impact Tibetan children's connection to their culture, identity, and language?
Yeah, and I think I said in my statement also, their core objective is to make them Chinese. Not only make them Chinese, like Chinese, and then being communist means hate Buddhism, hate Tibet, and see Tibet as backward and feudal, useless. So that's their core objective. And even if they succeed in one, like Chinese, they have succeeded. This is a complete assimilation. So we must call it out. If you're college, if you're in high school, when you have write papers, you should write about it. You should do deeper research. Of course, we watch 4 minutes video, and we are talking about it. This much of understanding is important, but more important is you should read the whole report, understand Chinese mindset, how they think, how they plan, how they strategize, and counter it. Yeah, ultimately, as I said, they want to make Tibet into China. Yeah.
Dostile sisula yeming la rikchoi ye chiwa di 공서초 딱바 상처골 깔압 난기도 아니 땡두기 셰 한데스 락렌 따르고레스 수기
상주에 라이지도와 아니 상주 잠닝지 세지 민망부지 고레테기도와 잠닝지 제오르에 상주에 지났다 경마도 캡산치에 말이 딜레 마랍체 한바체나 캡산치에 라이지도와 디 심주 약보 제용되어 가라 상주 지내 캡산 쳐도 가서가 심주 군디 망고 진용 여러와 납제 야용되어 가라 배나 compassion based leadership 서기도와 상주 라템베 고티 겐싱 나라 빼팽도 돼 간서는 당부 수수 고티 치기 있나다 내가 치기 있나 꿀롱데 상주에 돈이 제가 있나다 난 내가 디 회든다 치기에 뱀이 쌓여 툭든다 치기에 라나 닝식이 시샵에 닝톱지도와 디배숙체 딜레 나랑 튼다 치기에 나 맹튼다 치기 여러와 나랑 땀 튼다 치기 나라라 아니 주지그라나 섬지 치기 라나 아니 캐나강에 체되어 가라 람상화라 아탕아 용사 말에 나 명지에 차사를 열어봐 나 남들 도사 말을 심수 차비도와 딜레 상주의 참닝지 시샤의 돈은 닝도 지어봐 이 돈 내가 제발 있나 캐나라 말에 가져라네 디기민도 가져라네 강에 가태봐 있네 나 뱀이 쌓야 두튼다 지구였다 나 회튼다 지구였다 뱀이 튼다 지구였다 서봐 닝제의 상주의도 셴을 시샤의 돈 지고 캐나 심수 차기 디운동 하는 게 빼치자. 나는 워싱턴 DC 도대 거로 US Congress 로비치가. 나 로레를 택니 숨 삼삼 시도 거래. But 나 State Department the White House 산에 주주고 말고서. So imagine 그냥 탱 숨주도 워싱턴 DC라. State Department 용주고 말에 White House 용주고 말에 천안 출로 투그레스 커피 하우스 투기 룸 출로 투기라나 캐나 시교이 나 시위 선거로 파가 두고만 캐나 출로 투되고 오라고 되고 삼삼 출로 투니 삼삼 나로 투고 봐 that's rejection 지도 투고메 투 당가 삼체 군주스 나 시교이 나 미천보이 나 배배 구섭 실례데 벽 동해권 시해갈래 되요 나 대라 여러봐 나난 치고 있나 녀거로 와야 탱숨주 캐나 쥐주고 말은 나로 용주면 녀거로 봐 네야 나 만여배디 갈라고 나 벽 탄다 치고야다 벽은 다른 제마주 내가 쌍이 치기 가서는 나 벽을 땅에 요 말어 봐 벽을 땅에 요 말어 봐 도도 타마델라 November 2020 the State Department Zurich December 2020 White House Zurich 로추 거르다 에마 숨주 십주 돈이 간스나 나 시샤베 토한데 상주 메베 랑레 셴체 라이스도아 셴레 랑젠트 나 개침부 인선 치고했다 나 롱아 16살에 아따 초체민도야 가고도 워싱턴 DC 게라체 타르모도 포당 가올라에 죄미도 스테이트 디파트먼트에 죄미도 코드 차도왕을 깨다우도 파이케제 수케지 나라도 통중라서 나 샘슈 차도로 그래서 so I'll try to explain English. His question is very important. The compassion based, the mindset. So I always say compassion based leadership is very important. Or I can say in English, even His Holiness told me, 마시 잠닝지 세기 하사디, and the compassion based leadership, the 캡상 빼였다서. For example, your enemy will try to hurt you and harm you by calling you names and criticizing you in different ways. And then, if you show compassion towards the enemy, now if you don't have compassion, okay, if it's not compassion with leadership, when the enemy says bad things or do something nasty against you, you feel hurt, you get angry, you get stressed, and then you get so animated, right? You lose sleep, right? And next morning, you lose appetite. And after a few days, you look groggy, and you lose focus. And the enemy at the other side will say, we got him. Look at him. We criticize him, we say something nasty, we did something nasty. He's flat out, right? They win. But if it's compassion-based leadership, mindset, they say something nasty, they do a lot of nasty things to you, and you just smile at them. Right? And you keep walking tall. And then they say more nasty things against you. They do more nasty things against you. And you just keep smiling, keep moving forward. And after some time, they get stressed. Oh my goodness, what more can we say or do to bring this guy down? You keep marching forward. Smile at them. They lose sleep. They get stressed out. They become more and more bitter, and the language become more and more harsh. And finally, they expose their true color. And what you do? Keep smiling, keep working, keep marching forward. So compassion-based leadership is the best strategy to defeat your enemy. You understand? So, when I went to Washington, D.C., I used to go 2, 3, 4 times a year to Washington, D.C., okay? So I was never allowed to enter the State Department or the White House. Can you imagine? I used to think I'm sick, I got elected, I had a government exile. I should have a seat inside the building. They said, no, outside the building, in the cafeteria. I literally used to meet in Starbucks. Rita, don't you think you feel humiliated? A mid-level bureaucrat said, you can't come in. We have to meet outside. And they reject you 30 or 40 times, over 10 years. So had I gotten animated, had I gotten angry, I would have given up after 4 or 5 years. Enough, man, I'm not going to go to Washington, D.C. This is such an humiliation. Because my thinking was compassion-based leadership, meaning I was thinking for Tibet and 6 million Tibetans. What would they think if I gave up? What about 136 Tibetans who committed self-immolation, who burned themselves, and many of them died? What would they think? I just can't give up for them. It's a compassion for bigger cause. And if you go with their mindset, and after 10 years, in November, I entered the State Department. In December, I entered the White House for the first time. And you succeed. So, even in your day-to-day life, okay? Someone say nasty things to you, right? Just give a big smile. Just, what the hell? What's wrong with this guy, And then they will say more nasty things, give a bigger smile. Huh? They're like, my goodness, they lose mind and you win. Next. Yeah.
Dr. Lobsang Singila. My name is Arya Tara, and my question is, what does Tibetan activism look like for youth in North America today, and how has it evolved from previous generations?
If you look at Lakar, it's very good. I can clearly see the younger generation asserting their identity, Yoruba, their values. So participation in Lakar, Yoruba dance, is part of the political movement. This is a major political act, okay? Also, if you look at the branches or the groups forming Students of Free Tibet, it has ups and downs, right? Now the younger generation should do more. We should be more active. Because time has come, now His Holiness, tomorrow we are celebrating His Holiness' 90th birthday. And I had the honor of having an audience with His Holiness on June 2nd recently. And we all know, we all see His Holiness clearly aged now. He can't travel much, especially outside of India. So before, when he comes to Canada or America, there's headline news, he meets presidents and prime ministers, we get coverage, and so many members of parliament and cabinet ministers, they want to meet with him, and our issue is highlighted and promoted. Now, we have to shoulder the responsibilities ourselves. And the younger generation has far bigger challenge than our generation. Because we had His Holiness traveling all over. Now your generation, you have to shoulder more responsibilities. And then also, if you look at globally, we are entering a very tumultuous, uncertain period. I believe, I said this like at least 10 years ago maybe in the Tibetan parliament, we are entering an era of conflicts and wars. If you analyze all the wars, you will see, if you study First World War, Second World War, how it happened. European countries, because of colonialism, they became rich. Once they became rich, they have to protect their colonies, so they start buying arms and manufacturing arms, and after some time they fought 30 years war in Europe first, then the First World War, Second World War. Then what happened? Arab countries, they discovered oil 40 plus years ago. And as they became richer and richer, what they did, they started buying arms. And they start fighting. They're fighting even today. Can you imagine Arab countries, they believe in one God, Allah. They believe one messenger, Muhammad. But they're fighting even now. Now what's happening in Asia? Right? Asia as a continent buy more weapons and manufacture more weapons than Arab countries. So now we're entering a phase that Asia is becoming richer, but they're manufacturing and buying more weapons. They're preparing to fight. Now Europe is increasing the defense budget now. From less than 1% to 5%. They all are arming themselves. So you look at the world, everywhere they're arming themselves. Even Canada is increasing the defense budget. Why? They all are buying weapons. So this is a very uncertain, tumultuous period, and you guys will be entering that phase. We had 30 years of peaceful era, relatively general. I'm talking about the world, okay? After the Soviet Union collapse, Berlin Wall collapse in 1990, to 2000, 2010, maybe 2015, we had by and large peaceful world. There were no wars. Now, there will be wars. And the climate change is real. Like, we had such a hot summer, right? Even in Boston, New York, hottest summer in Europe. Climate change is real, global warming is real, another major challenge. So we're entering this era. Now where do we put Tibet in this uncertain period? When there are conflicts everywhere. Now China is saying they want to be #1 in the world by 2049. They want to replace America by 2049. That's the 100th anniversary of Communist Party of China. They have declared so, okay? Now, to be number one, they have to replace America. To replace America, if you study, there's a book called Thucydides' Trap, okay? They have analyzed all the great wars of the world. And they have concluded that whenever there was great power rivalry, there were 16 times there was a superpower in the world and other power came and replaced them. 16 times in the world. In the 16 times, 12 out of 16 times, they decided through war. Meaning, there is 75% chances that by 2049, between America and China, who becomes number one will be decided through war. With all these arms being built up, and China declaring to be number one, we are entering this phase. Can you imagine? So, in your lifetime, there is 75% chances that there will be Third World War. Now, to be number one of the world, first you must be number one of Asia. So China has to replace or remove any potential challenges or number two in Asia. And which country is potential number two? India or Japan. So now there's a huge build-up in Asia for big conflict. Maybe over Taiwan, over Senkaku Island, or East China Sea or South China Sea, or in the Himalayan belt. Galwan, Doklam, Himalayan belt is border between Tibet and India, right? Historically, or Tawang. So there's a potential, flashpoints. You never know where there will be conflicts. And where do you put Tibet in this context of the geopolitics? And that's the younger generation responsibilities. So not only you should be an activist, okay? You should organize events in your schools and colleges and form groups. But you must understand the bigger picture. If you don't understand the bigger picture, you keep running things. If you keep doing the same thing, what we do, this is from this age of AI now, right? You have supercomputers in your hand. You can develop and do a lot of things we could never do. 30 years ago, we used to send email to each other. We thought, wow, this is a breakthrough. Now I can communicate around the world without, spending lots of money on Telegram or, all that. Now you can do. So you have, on the one hand, major conflicts in the world coming, involving China, which involves Tibet. But you have also a lot of tools in your hand. So I would say use AI, learn AI. Anything, whenever you study, whatever you study, you must make AI part of your study. AI will give us the tools to become stronger as a profession, but also as a Tibetan activist.
My question for you is, how do young Tibetan leaders in North America navigate the balance between integrating into Western society and preserving their Tibetan culture?
I did answer that, briefly. As I said, don't assimilate, but integrate. That's the key point, okay? So yes, you should buy Taylor Swift's music, listen to BTS, like all the Korean food you want, but don't give up on momo and shaphale, and especially laping, okay? So, as long as you like momo more than Korean barbecue, you are a Tibetan. That's the test. As long as you like your shaphale more than hamburger, you are Tibetan, at individual. And even music, keep listening to Tibetan music, okay? And you're wearing chuba. Once you wear chuba, especially women has advantage. They look so nice, right? Now male chuba is also evolving. So, first and foremost, I always say, you should, it might be difficult if there's a pyramid, you should say, I am Tibetan first. Really. There's nothing wrong in thinking you are Tibetan first. Then you are Canadian. And you are a proud Canadian, of course. You like Canadian. Okay, and you are also citizen of the world. But you are a Tibetan first. That we must commit ourselves in our thinking. Because we are such a small population, 6 million Tibetans, and 1.4 billion Chinese. Our population is only 0.5% of Han Chinese population. For every Tibetan, there are 99.5 Chinese. See? So that's why we should never, because our life and our life is sacred, okay? Our identity is immensely valuable because it's so precious, because it's 0.5%. If one Tibetan loses identity, 99.5 Han Chinese win. So as long as you remain Tibetan, you are challenging 99.5 Chinese. Not in a bad way, but as a Tibetan. So this challenge is also so good, right? Because I often say this, and this is something they say, oh, why you got elected as Sikyong, why you are still part of, I have so many classmates, we had this 50 years reunion and 40 years reunion, all that. There's a Lobsang, we had, some of my classmates are from Harvard Law School. They're like, partners in law firms. They make about $500,000 a year to $1 million a year. Yeah, my partners, my classmates. And they say, Lobsang, you were smarter than us. I went to Japan. They said, my goodness, in the negotiation class, when all the class, and then we had professor sat across the table, and one of the students had to sit this side, and we had to negotiate with the professor. And all my classmates put me on that chair. And when I negotiated with the professor, I won. Or at least there was a deadlock. They say, my goodness, in our class, you were the best, strongest negotiator. Had you joined law firm, you would have made millions. They always, even now, they say, why you're Tibetan? Having said that, we had many reunions. So they all are they all are making millions. They've made millions. Okay, they are making millions now. But in the class, I am the most popular one. Even today, they all admire me. But Lobsang, I have a beautiful house, this and that, but I'm one of the 8 billion. I just disappear. But in our batch, you are the most high profile. What you do is admirable. We are now, we have almost 60 years, right? When you look back in life, they say, my goodness. When we all talk about among ourselves, we all say, what is Lobsang doing? My goodness, he's in the news here, he's in the news there, he's traveling, he's doing this and that. Yes, they have more money than me. But if you Google Harvard Law School alumni, right? What they call prominent alumni, my name is there, not theirs. See? So, one should be very proud, right? And one should always think, I'm a Tibetan. Even though you say, oh, I have to work so hard, I have to speak for Tibetan cause, and I have to share these sad stories of Tibet, there's self-immolation, this destruction. Why we have bad news all the time, right? Isn't it? Something is so sad, right? They tell you all the sad things. These boarding schools also bad, sad story. But that is challenging your character. That is challenging your courage. And in one's life, there are very few moments when you are challenged. 8 billion people, most of them don't have this opportunity. And when you're challenged, when you shine, you become a leader. You know the definition of leader? No? When an ordinary person does something extraordinary, that's leadership. See? And we as Tibetans are given this extraordinary opportunity to represent Tibet. 6 million Tibetans. And when we succeed, we will succeed, okay? It's a fact. It's a law of karma. Why? There is a life, there is a death. Okay? Xi Jinping, he will die. China, one day they will collapse. In 20th century, 8 major empires collapsed and disappeared. British Empire used to say, sun never sets. They had colonies from Africa to Europe to Asia. Okay, France, you just name it, Russia, so many. 8 empires in the last century disappeared, collapsed. And there are empires now. China wants to be empire. Empires come and go. Dictators come and go. Our day will come. When that day comes, the question is, did I do something towards that day? And if you have done something towards that day, even by participating in Hakka, even by being an activist, speak for Tibetan rallies, you will be very proud. Because ultimately in Buddhism we say there is life, there is death. Just before you die, you should not die with regrets, thinking, oh, I could have done this for Tibet, I could have said this for Tibetans. You should die thinking, you know what? I gave my best shot and I have left this legacy for my children and children, their children. They will carry forward the movement and they will succeed. When they succeed, they will remember me because I also contributed. You know, don't you like that? Right? So that is our opportunity.
My question for you. Sisum. My question for you is, what are the biggest challenges Tibetan youth face when trying to advocate for Tibet in Western political and academic spaces?
Vision, strategy, planning. For example, now the Western America especially, right? There's a huge debate going on about America, about Gaza and Palestine. 70% of colleges in America and students and faculty members support Palestine issue. Why? They planned it very well. It's not an accident. What they did, the Palestine activists, they invited American students, Canadian students, to come to Palestine every year and make them live with them in refugee communities, in their homes, make them see. They've been doing this for 30 years. And then when this Palestine issue came up, students all come up because many of them have been there, lived with them. And they say, yeah, I saw it with my own eyes. So that's why there's such a major movement around the world about Palestine. That's what they did. So Tibetans also we should do. So this is also a challenge. All of you like to go to Shija and all, right? So you all must go to Shija. And take your friends to Shija. And in your schools and colleges, you must have a program. And Tibetan Government Exile also must have a program to bring foreign students to come to Dharamsala, go to Shija, make them live with them. Once you live with them, you get this emotional connection. And when something happens in Tibet, they all rise up and say, yes, we know this. We've lived with Tibetans, we have witnessed this. So obviously we'll speak for them. That's how you build grassroots movement. And it needs planning, strategy, and execution. And in some ways, in 1990s, up to 2000, so the Tibetan movement was almost #1 or #2 in the world. Why? We had this kind of program. American students coming to Nepal, coming to Dharamsala, going to Shija, living like that. And we should renew that, or rather we should reinforce that, and we should do more. Once you have that experience, eyewitnesses accounts, they will rise up for you. So Tibetan activists, obviously first you have, on a daily basis you have homework, you have to study, and you have to, spend some time for Tibet related, either on Wednesday, organizing meetings. All these are logistics. But you should be a good planner. You should be inclusive. Bring as many people as possible. And I always say, that when you organize a students group or anything, you should be as broad as possible and form alliances. For example, Indian students, South Asian students are our natural constituency of friends. Many of Indians, they know about Tibet, right? Because the largest Tibetan communities are. So you should form alliances. You should coordinate work with them. You should co-sponsor each other's events. So that's how you can broaden your coalition and you become stronger. Okay?
Dr. Lobsang Sangay. My question for you is, how can Tibetan youth leaders build stronger bridges with elders in the community to ensure continuity of the Tibetan struggle and cultural knowledge?
How can Tibetan leaders build stronger bridges with elders in the community to ensure continuity of Tibetan struggle and cultural knowledge? Is that your question? With the elders, right? Yeah. Patience and tolerance, because elders tend to be a bit kajushawo, right? Don't you agree? Huh? They are like, no? They scold you a lot, right? That's Tibetan style. We had a very patriarchal mindset. And immediately we'll end up scolding. Because, as a parent, I also know, So it's important, whenever a parent says something, you should say, yeah, their parents, they're like that, they will say these things. So you need a bit of understanding, right? And sometimes you must push back a bit and say, hey, I'm doing everything that you're asking, So there has to be balance between pushback and understanding and patience. You're looking at your mom. I can see that who your mom is, yeah. With light pink, won't you? So, both sides, okay? I said, you can't look at your mom. When I said, the parents has to be understanding. I also said, you also have to be understanding. So it both ways. You must find a common ground. Because also you must understand, this is not simple parents-children relationship. Parents have additional pressure. Because they all were taught, you should represent Tibet in Tibetan cause. In addition to being a normal parents, they have an additional burden or responsibilities of being a Tibetan, of having lost your country in a foreign world, right? So you must understand where parents are coming from. You have to live up to what is the community expectation, right? And you understand bit towards parents, and parents should understand bit towards you. That's the bridge. The fact that you are standing here today, so you are doing a very good job. Yeah.
So, during the country, children, laptop, local number, so Sangay, lava church, so students, please come back down to your seats. We wanted to ensure, and it was intentional planning, to have the students with Sister Lobsang Sangay so that they get inspired that one day they can be at the podium with Lobsang Sangay. So that's the whole intention. So that tanda manjo ki mimang chola tiri manjo Tibet tileng ki lerim di kot sugi ani Tibet.
Ning thong ning tu she dang kari che shui ning arang do cha shana ni ming piang yi ani arang phoba shigi ra ning arang sani shunu ki gyule chigi ani arang la thiwani chigi ani sumba tila ning arang regu chigi chigi thiwani de nga ingi to shu chawa che ani sumba regu de arang phege to shui yi thiwa thangbo de kha che tulana As a former Sikyong, what challenges did you face that you believe every young Tibetan leader should prepare for? Ngasane thate khari chigoyo me chikche. Ani niwa tilani ngato nangi geng khyopada ani Pimi saya mangbochi ge geng khyoba delani khyobar tinde yore samge dura. Ani tiwaniwa di what inspired you to take on such a big responsibility for Tibetan people as you have carried the responsibility of being a voice for Tibet for so many years? Were there any moment of self-doubt? How did you overcome them, and how do you stay grounded when work gets heavy? Ani tuani di tagarang ira. Ani sumpa dilla ngara review chunjujik di kharrela na review di mashu gongla de poster la they clearly thongadura. This interactive session is your chance to ask questions, share your voice, and explore why Tibetan language and youth leadership matters more than ever. On the tharing the thingja the chuje kogab the lenche and ngarang voice the use chiche and ngarang tharing pemogoba changme chapshu tengala tharing rewa chunju chigi rasizol of saying chone ani rewa the kharrela na so pheba chiso nangula pemogoba pheba marela ne keja mango chik do de gorela ani dikeja di thiring hausa and the hope on leg your and the marine yaman you do the yore and in around the chashana yama gaga you do some bakorane the kija mangpe konyo you rapemo go peba marela ruta ani on the geni youth leadership kanglani kicha lead some bala mental health la this gen tigire samgi dura nga do chashana ngala and the mangpe face chigo to the sambala this chikale dura inele tharing hasan dusta de sambala Toronto chigo mare kya kala ine re ani pheba ji program even khari ne pemogo bad zomete chikale khakku chigire not because they don't care kunzo nga khewa me nga dewa me into marera because they never feel like fully accepted as a Tibetan ani they left out feel chigorera ani on the this chikali hakko chagore samgi dura mara samchila ani on the ani nga chikolo se chola regular ira nga pheba samagi lagore ne lai mera those who don't know please educate them nga the regular ira on the khachila na when migi barber susugi identity gangla kese thiti sambala we start wondering like khachini nganjo lendi lagor lendi if because nganjo ke logo pemogo ba ke logo yorira ho digang la chi chani lagi na I believe uchang la ke logo yigire khamdola khamgi yor khambala khamgi yor amdola amgi yor samgi dura kisi dialects chikpo gang la base chani ani nganjo pemogo ba pheba marela na you guys are totally wrong re ra ani on the gani I believe no Tibetan should ever feel like an outsider in their own community. And each is please, Sigyong Cho, to just sit na. Situation na naman yung kota.
Rekha ki tanda Tibat hasa tamading ngi tamul leng yagin da lo. Kansa na ngara Darjeeling fishing road dore dode khala ngara pemo ko ba thokpo yorba thongmo mangbo ye ngara jint chikba ngone chine ngi best friends yorba Lobsang setare khona khansa pemo ko bare khona yorba pepper angre pepper mare lage yorba su imbe ne ya bet norda garab luju thone norre yorba sangje thone norre khona gomma suji shedi jore pepper angre na tuting donyu yorba tiju mevo donyu na pemogo batasta senjemi janga jangle togo mangsaja ani pebarare ani di pemar에 라이즈가 맞다 가슴가 클립 친지 통스라 생애의 통마스 김세 가르시 내가 뭐난 예매 가지 간 예매라고 녀과야 말해 김세 하라요 말해 뒤운데 할라 딘데 라비아디 야고야 말해 공수주 공부 가르스나 배명고부터 배가 이 마찬가지 히말라야 규창마 만주 표주 직벌했어 여러분 속보 인바이네야 남대 직벌했어 나체 공수주 공부를 배 잠링디 가주인의 체로 써야지도 이 제대고 알아 뒤운데 할라 the one year Lamia Swin and I, when she gave me, die me, bad north, did she give your Maria? What's the Lamazula Jerva? I can't love a dialect in Bay Nerva. Kamba Nangla, young Kamba dialect Mangush huge, Amdo dialect Mangush huge, Uzan dialect Mangush huge, parts of one year a dialect on Kishin, going to Mare. Ryan, and they also pepper one year at it, a dealing egg,
That's not even a help to them.
Nalat Shingy Digreda, Jimsy did Dishigal, Chesan Dishiga, Jara, review to a country, say Jorba. Tande Tanda Munishinaba, chance shooting do you never. Ripaga Perchola. Pemako Mangayat. Tuting Chol Pemako Nungayat, and the Tongsep Sing a Tongsep Jesha, Tongsep Junior Yorba, and the Perchola Payat, Pernala Yorta. A Gemiki Pepper or another Nanglon Pepper Marina Carla de Yorba. I put the Pepper San Sabta Nanglon Yore, San Nanglon Yore, Hajula Pepper than the Manga Yore. Did you Nunga Yorda? Do you do Halani? Gemmy paper legally goes to paper number Mare Langata, how much at you, Yorba? Oh, Gemmy the Guare and Shady, what the church, your mare. Just on the Dizani, Malabruchi, and not some puri pin that some chickbare, Amdo in ere, Kamba in ere, Usa in ere, and some paper chickre, those are chickdy chewore, Tundi chewore, and the puri pin that signing as a concert show, Gunglo, Guju, Gude, Zeosumti Chiware. Concerto Mitzi Dinangla. Kulle Kemba the Dumdi Chishu the Cardesana, Perchoga sum chick, Siajorba. One day, Pershung Nangla, Lobta Nangla, Dixu Nang, Sangma, Chick Tito Edgedua, Chishu Cherry. Divin de Halan, Concerto, Good pay with the Haling Tangila, Tangi Shubanashin, Chige Halape, New Dugore, Concerto Gomba the Torche. Not Daran Chedeva in Narada, must Tundi Chikti Yaga. Nini, so Semgamla Yaga Pengre, Simshu Chayung, the Tangilas, compassion based leadership, concession Sungur Leisure, Goti Yaga Chetuke, Zamling Yaga Pentuke. This one's and it did Lange and the Sun in Malab, Champet, North de War. This one's running a Pimbokoba Kranza, Tobotomo Sangmala, Conservative. 지존을 용량 채우래서 생긴 용세직을 요말에 용세직 칼라 떼체 아니 샘슈 차바 이나르다 아니 코조 용아 누가 징해 줘라 코조 캣 누구래 그봐 망하게 배바 상마 찍바래를 찬솔을 가수 징해만도 누가 섬게 요말에 다 당초 내내 빡시샤고도 하고 고슬라 맛을 직시하고를 섬체 그래서 코조 로밤 마치로 치슬라로치야 로 이게 가지고 뭐만 나대고요. 한사 당 앞에 먹고 보면 대바 축심을 씌워요. 왕하게 가샤라에 데릴레도 열라고요. 단다 시종 빼먹고 밖에 신경 질려요. 다스 라야 중만 빼먹고 봐 한직 델레고 다스 라야 나도 벼버 찍고 찍야래 다스 이거만 라니 아니 디용도 하라 아니 캔섬 뭐 채고래 가부 채고래 그봐 만섬 필리핀다 샤라 찍바 나래 고티 체벌 가르쳐버려서 라이즈도와 배반나라 롭종 망 채우도 난 시경 제사르다 시경 체니 당아 하버드 PhD 디그리 망불라고 할 때가 점링 등자도라 가능 간점싱이 탈레템뷰치 제투여랬습니다 이내가 하버드리니 제제야 달레 로시를 같이 들라고 롭종 체듯한데 당 같이 올라서는 디지 등자 토셔나 배바이라니 여러 시교이라는 등지 친주질랑 말 배바간 시에 시주 친주질이야 말에 땅을 게지 등절 친이다 당선가 야가기 TV 인터뷰도 왔다 타이완기 TV 인터뷰 되었다 날 티바 가르고 그래 있잖아 점링권이 야가권이 치아간 거 그래 배디 야주주 니슈시는 티바 야주 tuk주 든주 가나나 롭상 생게 단단가 캐서 통서 고도연의 데베톤이 양스의 데베톤 야가 TV가 캐서 델레되고 할라 TV 리퀘스트 렐레버 여러분 간실라는 롭상 생게 권 시에는 끼지 침복 티바 가족 간역법에 랭가 투그레스 라이지 당가 이 로고 말다 수수 터지시고 이등가 단대로 좀 치고요 this one's all of you I'm still studying on a daily basis. If you see me, you always see me my YouTube on. I'm always listening to debates. China, America, Europe, Korea. I read about 10 newspapers a day. Everything on international relations, geopolitics. Now you can ask me about Taiwan, China, Southeast Asia, Europe. Now Europe, about Europe, China. You can ask me anything. I really study hard and prepare. So we should be global experts, international relations experts. So if you get a bigger platform, then you can reach out to more people. So that's what I'm saying. I'm an advisor, consultant to the Doha. Hazaras, the Venezuelans, the Nicaraguans, Sangmaran. Not because I want to talk about Tibet, but I can advise them on how to set up and run a government exile. How can you do this? So that's how you should prepare yourself. We need this. It's a very uncertain world, a changing world of wars and conflicts. How do you navigate that? Where you put Tibet? That is the key. Because in 1990s, we rode the wave of democracy, human rights, non-violence, and environment. And His Holiness advocated that. We rode that wave. Now that wave is no more. The wave is very different. And we have to strategize very differently. So we must have a big picture. Now personal challenges, ups and downs, it's part of nature. Part of life there. So it's just a cycle. Sometimes, especially when I was Sikyong, 136 Tibetans commit to self-immolations. There were some as young as 7, 8, 10 years, 60. How many times you cry? So kulletang cherada super numluche meta tang nirada ani 통도거로 표대된다 안가서 출론직 체로 지나서 먼저 직 시에로 지나 삼고로 나 시교인백 나를 게지 여러다 안가 출로 시가 도대 워싱턴 디스도 되고 주스테 디파트먼트 날 용추고 말다스 추출로 토고래다스 화이트하우스나 용추고 말다스 그 스타벅스 커피하우스 게 차주요 여러분 파케지시네 콜라마고 수케시네 콜라마고 나 표현한 다른 밑중이 셀프몰레이션 시스타스라고 여러분 파게 콘도 노티고 가서 고고이면 하이 고고 말이야 이 삼삼 쪽으로 와야 되는 시대고 여러분 이게 당일 나가는 시대 compassion based courage I never thought 나라 통중 지구도 군주스 나라다 뱃코라 킨능시 지금도 여러당 알았다 이야고로 지금 삼는다 나 삼백쪽으로 나를 땅으로 아 페미사야 톡 된다 될래다스 랑루 메시지에 삽친 레데도 코코네 마고는 나 계속 쳇게 시기 담도 중마 용기 그 마호버도 용기 킨서 많이 버도 나 용기 킨서 나라 랑루 용주 뭐지보다 나 용기 가서 나를 땅은 나 페미 별려 땅 거래 이 약합려 땅 거래 미리려 땅 짠이려 땅에 삼나라 봐 아니 semshudi yanga kikduwa. Andiya shechone yore, gesachimbo shirwala junju nala yore. Didwa, ani shengi tuyana shida magalas, menge yordas. Shengi mena shida dugwa yomares, tuyenge yores lagdwa. So this is a very famous line, okay? When people praise you, don't let it get into your head. Because remember, there are others criticizing you. When others criticize you, don't yourself let down. Because remember, there are others praising you. That's equanimity, tanyum. So I always go like that. When people criticize me, I say, hey, I don't give a damn. Why? There are people praising me. When people praise me too much, sometimes they say, all kinds of things. They say, hey, I shouldn't let it get into him. I know there's some nasty people out there too, so you just balance it out. That's called equanimity, tanyum. And tanyum is the foundation of enlightenment. Rada, first step, rada. Kya tanyum chetuguya ani gajin le sare. Rawa. Did I answer all your questions? Jungswe. Okay, tuche.
As you're describing your current stories and experiences, you are always working hard for the Tibetan people. For me, trying to balance my studies with extracurricular activities such as trying to volunteer at events or currently interning, it's always hard enough for myself to balance with schoolwork. So my question is, how are you able to balance tasks and challenges that are faced upon you as you are relied on by so many Tibetans and non-Tibetans?
When I was in Delhi University, I was Hansraj College. You can sit down. So first year, my attendance was 51%. Second year, my attendance went to 41%, something like that. Third year, my attendance was 33%. Because I was an activist, Tibetan youth leader. So I always thought Tibetan cause is more important. So we used to go to, in front of Chinese embassy, protest all the time, get arrested, always organizing, always doing things. So don't do the way I did it, okay? So there was no balance. Now, if you're a student, focus on your studies. That's number one, okay? And if you're doing some activities, if it is affecting you, negatively affecting your studies, focus on your studies. Number one, your study is the most important thing, okay? You get good education, then you are good. Then as you study, and if you can devote some time on other activities, Tibet related, then you should. Then once you get your education, high school and college degrees and master's degrees, then you should try to spend more and more time on Tibet activities. You can always become activists anytime in your life. You can always contribute for Tibet anytime in your life. Me, when I was in Delhi University, balance was twisted, right? So when I went to law school in Delhi University, I devoted more time on studies. Then I got my act together. Then I got into Harvard. Harvard Law School also, I used to devote quite a bit of time on activities. So when I did very well. First year I focused on my studies. I did very well. Once I got into PhD at Harvard, again, I devoted so much time on Tibetan activities. Instead of finishing my dissertation in 5-6 years, it took me 7-some years, you know. Then I got my act together. Last 18 months, I wrote my dissertation, got my doctorate degree. Now, I served as Sejong for 10 years. Now I have a very flexible schedule. I have to teach, you know, a class in the spring. Then I have because now I've become kind of elderly statesman, you know, so I have a bit of a leeway. But I made it very clear that I will always devote my cause for Tibet. Another thing also, you know, I travel a lot. In 20 days, in 21 or 22 days, I was in the US, I went to Europe, I went to India, came back to US for 3 days, and went back to Europe and came back in 22 days. Right? And I do it all the time. Last time in India, when it was in January, in 19 days, right? I was in 9 cities and 5 countries. I do all that. Again, all the time. I sleep well in the plane. That's my trick. And how I sleep well in the plane, I always tell my mind tells my body to sleep because I have to be fresh tomorrow. I have to do this. Again, always thinking about Tibet. If I am not sharp enough, you know, if I'm not prepared enough, I might bring Tibet down. So, you know, recently there's a clip. I'm not trying to promote my social media. Okay, you can check Facebook, my Facebook. I went to Global Security Forum. This is a major European event. Like at least 24 prime ministers, presidents, and foreign minister, defense minister come to the event. 2,000 plus people from 127 countries come there. And I can say proudly, in one clip you will see Robin, okay? He says, oh, we have only a minute and a half or something left. There are so many hands raised, but I'll give chance to Lobsang. What he says? Because Lobsang always asks good questions. Why? Because I listen to the presenters. And then and there I come up with a question, which is relevant, okay? But somehow connected to China, the punchline, and perhaps Tibet. As I get up, I say, I'm a Tibetan, right? Then ask good questions. So these things, need some skills, but all the time. Prepare yourself. Study yourself. So that's the best thing. Okay?
Dr. Sangila, and my first question is very similar to what you said. What kind of activities did you do as a Tibetan in the US to be able to go to a school like Harvard? And also, what struggles did you face and how long did it take to finish?
Actually, college admission, Yoruba, is normally you need good GPA, good grades. And then, but your story is very important. What you write in your story. So you should really think deep and hard and come out with one story. You can say a lot. I've read a lot of stories, okay, of college students, applicants. And everybody has stories to share. But how you put it together. So you must come with one story among 5 or 10 or dozens of stories, and then mold that in such a way that it reflects your values, your commitment, your courage, and your leadership. So this is something, it's in your hands. So, and I shared with you, right, when I applied to 9 law schools, all rejected me. Second year, 8 out of 9 accepted me because I changed my story. I improved my story. And then, for example, when I first came to Harvard Law, did my master's degree, I didn't know that, I would do PhD and I would be accepted as PhD student, okay? I had an interest, but I didn't know I was good enough. But then the way I was performing and presenting and participating in classes, my professors, they liked me. They said, why don't you apply for this, postdoc fellowship? Professor told me, and I applied. I got it. Then said, why don't you apply for PhD doctorate dissertation? And I applied. Because of 150 students, only 6 were accepted to the doctorate degree, right? And my professor told me, why don't you do it? And I did. Because again, it's not so much you're acting or you're pretending, but genuinely performing in the classroom. Not trying to show up, okay? Be genuine, be real, be committed. And they all are experts. They know, they can read your mind, they can read your commitment, where you're coming from. And then throughout my PhD, interestingly, half, if not 75% of the students spend 20%, if not 50% of the time applying for scholarships, grants. But for me, it was provided every year by professors because they really saw my commitment. My English was not the best in my class. Even today, I say this. I acknowledge I make mistakes in speaking English. Grammar mistakes, words, even today, I know. I'm not the perfect spokesperson as far as command of English language is concerned. But the difference is, I have the courage or sense of pride of being a Tibetan. I always think I should speak for Tibetan people because I am a Tibetan. And if I don't, who will? That thrusts me forward and make me speak. I always say this, if I have a command of your English language, my goodness, I'll be flying on top of the world. But I didn't. I went to Pishulopta. Famously, the seriously Darjeeling, we had the statue recently. We were talking about school teachers. We had a school, I don't want to name her. Her English was so poor. She was our English teacher, okay? So there was a chapter on lion, right? The king of the jungle, and explain what does lion do, how he is the king of jungle. And I remember asking him, Madam, what is lion? And she said, Lobsang, lion means lion. Bujana? What is it? Lion means lion. you don't understand? She couldn't explain, you know. So with that kind of teacher, our kind of command of English was very poor, no? Literally, I started speaking English in class 11 and 12 when I went to St. Joseph College. I had a friend. I don't want to give him full name, but he's a friend. St. Joseph College, he was in we had bunker bed, right? He was on top, I was on bottom. And we were talking to each other in English. After some time we say, Lobsang, and the funniest joke is, his cousin in Darjeeling, he was from Nepal, asked him to bring a pair of jeans, okay? And he brought 2 jeans pants. 2. And he went to his cousin and said, here are your jeans pants. And she said, no, I asked for a pair of jeans. Yes, there is a pair. He said, no, a pair of jeans means 1 jeans. No, you said pair, means I brought 2 for you. You know, so can you imagine? We are like high school, the senior, the junior, pair of jeans, like the chick, the hakuma, neat. And it's a pair, jeans, pair. Can you imagine? Even in high school, our English is so bad. The pair of jeans, so with that kind of background, we grew up. So can you imagine the struggle? So I always say this, what you need in life, the grit, determination. Chigi, shigi, doing something. Don't listen to your naysayers. There's been so many naysayers, sometimes even within your family. Don't. Just believe in yourself. Just grit, work hard, keep moving forward. And then you will show yourself. Your teachers will know, your professors will know, people around will know, and opportunities come. Share grit and determination, Reda. Just keep moving forward. And if I have to tell you how we struggle, challenges, Class 12, I used to do business with Nepal and Delhi to pay my college tuition fees. I didn't have money. I borrowed 5,000 rupees from my neighbor. And my uncle gave me 5,000 rupees in Nepal, Agwonge. With 10,000 rupees, I did business with Kathmandu and Delhi. I used to sell Wijing, jeans pant, 2 dozen here, 2 dozen here. Can you imagine carrying 20 kgs each? I was 19 years old. That's how I made my college fees. Can you do that? I don't think you can even live 20 pair of jeans. So, sheer grit, I want to do this, I'll just go and do it. Okay? Yeah. So that's why first you must believe yourself. To believe yourself, you must always be proud of being a Tibetan. Be proud. Believe yourself. And then just say, if I don't, who will speak for Tibetan people? Okay?
Susilo singela to stele ngami mai ani jida di ngare ta senjuna lene ta shunu da de lega chine leadership laura de chine mambu shiwe ni leadership chidila kange khache me de tin chama sijung gang so na so ni thiwa de chama thoba se so ni ngare na ta sijung la so pege ta leadership de zo la ni follow chene ta da chokola lega che simbai and then ni thiwa so de khare isna ta nga khazani cha Canada ge citizen chasra ani citizen chadi ani citizen ije tang citizen ge apply cha dura ta ngajo ge passport la che te pha Canada shong la che te pha apply cha do di khran so ge tangi citizen song bana shi ngajo phe de satana lo la mindu se ne song na sura tara nge pige la ani khonjo ge nge kha che jang ndi chi di phone sho den zo jang ndi chi di nge ge khonjo nge ge che sa de China Jisura, Janala Jisu, and ye like Nakesa Paris, Nakesa Penaki, Negi, Kisa Sasha, the birthplace, the China Kachini Tigi, which the Tibet to reach the Limba, ako dine tanye tig to study la and the Tibet Mindu la stina lo France web city corona Tibet Mindu ani di China matu rang to Russia la sange la ngal passport mo la ra China tina nga phe ra re matanga jamna la ke message tinde mambo jinge France phe citizen social shubai ina ya thalami yo mare sa France thitsana yo mare sti jela thanda khanju chindi le khacha mi gera den zolani thanda citizen minister de phes and didinge France citizen minister la to shubai ani ngajogi passport te wala thoji ches imbaina susu kesa te susu lomba mi phe la tepek la ne thiru chese shubai khonjo minister korang ha ko mindu tede khandi che korang tede chale nange mara khang go la leader chine do derma tede sumza te ngi gi thiwa la na sijung la rewa zo te sijung nga chipo mare dinda pheba mambo jila to thi deve ngajo khena ta chipo mare sha jaka mambo jila ani passport te dila dinala China tinali pena khaza nye changa jaga chito itidila pugela asam shula to dila ni passport ka China thidila pe kale dora ani chana jami re shala da de yo o tinde sonza ni tanda maung bala tanda nga jodi khanju shindele na tanda chojo sawa na chojo lange re tenjong gola ti shuja thuna pe yapo doni sijongi dila ani thalam da lamde da ani tinde gola chinaro na shwe tuji
ngoma arini kharchebersna thangba arin lenge khunzo passport de China ti de khun samegi kamju gyabla nishi gyabra khatila birthplace thila de hala yakhab mathibe che sani de thibore chamdo ina chamdo rawa ani lesa shigatse ngaba ina ngaba ani country de mathi che sani thi che di khunzo arila choya sebre choya se che ani mangbochi passport ningba mangbochi sani yor 야합도 요마래 딜람루 직 제초고였어 디손자 캐나다네 니슈 갸바 이나르다 먼저 산에 뒤로 치슬라바이나 딜람징에 유스그레 섬도 아니 말에 니슈 갸브지 딱고 쇠고 와nen코 죄솔치 니슈 피 참아 채고 에네마 콘저 딕시나라 니디 초그레서 타취에바이나 람루사와치 된요레 섬도 아니야 가셰게야 고 차이나 티나야 별별 답데두스 랑에야 다 차이나라 마티 카메라샤 랑에 용도와 다지저에 별도 남야 별당금이 두스기도 아야 보자 자가티나 디코 수수스 내단데레샤 다디 치기나 아니 게네지 중에 니시 퓨체 딕시 라네데 다디 증종게 여러와 탁쉐 토네니 산에 티네 디그레스 라베이나 탑람 치그레스도 네
투체 today, 추수 중이 제가 야 페도도 되네 공을라 신라기 도저 세명도 대인산이 저와 순이에서 voilà beaucoup le job à dire dans ce temps beaucoup capter ça la scène shurana
Dr. Lobsang Sangila, my name is Tenzin Kunsel, and I had a question for you. For some context, I've become a really passionate Tibetan freedom fighter in these past couple of years as a high schooler, and I've participated in and I'm part of many activism groups such as Students for Free Tibet. And in the activism space that I'm in, I've realized two really big challenges that Tibetan freedom fighters face, and I just wanted to hear what you think about my perspective. The Tibetan movement globally is powered by grassroots networks and communities uniting across the world to attend protests, organize events, and spread awareness amongst people who aren't Tibetan. And I've noticed that movements such as the Palestine movement that you mentioned before, they are very effective in organizing and planning, as you mentioned, and especially the fact that grassroots movements are really dependent on the general public's perception of Tibet and, for example, of Palestine. And I've noticed that Tibetan activists face a problem of not being able to control the narrative of Tibet. And the second problem I've seen is among diplomatic spaces and academic spaces, people do realize the
like the problems that China has, but because China is a global power and their power and the way they've colonized Tibet, no countries are really going to fight China per se. And because of this, I've noticed like on online spaces, the main like Chinese propaganda that I've seen about Tibet is that recently, like because of the United States, Trump administration and everything, and because United States historically has been like competitive against China, whenever people are saying like, oh, in China, Tibetans are losing freedom, Uyghurs are losing freedom as well, they're in concentration camps, I see people replying with, oh no, this is just propaganda. And I see specifically people saying this is CIA propaganda. America is trying to put China down, and this is just propaganda against China. And I've realized when they're saying this with hatred towards the American government. And I feel like this just downplays the Tibetan freedom as a whole. And I've noticed this a lot in online spaces, but I just wanted to see if you've noticed this at all or something about that. Yeah. Thank you.
So they also encourage all the office workers to go online and criticize. So you should not take online counter narrative as representative of the general public. They disguise themselves. For example, in my social media accounts also there are a lot of critics. I know some Chinese are hiding, and using all that. Recently, even the His Holiness Dalai-Lama.com, the website, was hacked by Chinese, in fact by the Shukden group, and they put all the Shukden propaganda. So they're capable of doing that. Once His Holiness was giving a teaching, right? And in the Chinese, the Facebook and YouTube account, Chinese language, they have like 10,000 criticism against His Holiness in Chinese language. So this is all orchestrated. So you should be aware of this. Now even, the Americans and Europeans, the world is aware. There's so many trollers, right? They just do that. Now, about narrative, you're right. We must think hard and plan hard. This is a sensitive topic, okay? Recently, His Holiness made a statement about his reincarnation, right? Now, I have worked this on for 7 years, from 2016 on. Because I have had very close, interaction. Because I have like at least 100 one-on-one audience with His Holiness, right? And often I discuss about this. I know his thinking, I know his mindset. And he's a visionary, he's a strategist, right? And then I knew this day was coming. That His Holiness statement was coming at the age of 90. Now I started speaking about reincarnation. If you notice, if you go to social media, I started speaking about it 3 years ago, at least 2 years ago publicly. And look at among the criticism Tibetans were criticizing me. Because what I was trying to do was control the narrative, right? We must be out there before others. We must say our part of the story first, so that the Chinese cannot counter it. They have overwhelming presence around the world. Do you know what the Chinese say? That in 200 countries around the world, there's not even a single country where Chinese news media, either newspaper or radio or television, do not reach. Okay. More than America. And what do we have? We have nothing. But what we can do is control the narrative. So that's what we need to, why I started speaking is to create awareness among Tibetan people. What is this reincarnation? My line of argument was not about what His Holiness should decide. That's His Holiness' decision. My argument was not what His Holiness should say or should not say. That's His Holiness' decision. My argument, my narrative was whatever His Holiness says, we must be prepared and we must support him. And we must ride on that narrative. But Tibetans don't understand. Oh, ta kena tanda kundu kuzu shu dewe kalu chiran tende yangsi konshini namtore nire kware sumne yorwa. They were just criticizing, right? Thank goodness I worked on this for 3 years. And last November, I organized 2 days conference at Harvard. It takes a lot of effort, okay, to put a conference like that. You have to talk to all the scholars individually, raise funds, and Harvard to agree and have the event and put it out there on YouTube, you know. Now, when His Holiness made a statement, I'm not trying to show off. Among the Indian media, who got invited the most as a guest? 1 or 2 people, or maybe 3, and I am one of them. Why? Because they know I can speak on this. Even CNN, you know, you just look at, I was in BBC and, you know, Deutsche Welle, the German TV, and, you know, NPR radio, and then Australian radio and London radio, just internationally. And if a Tibetan can speak on this issue, we can control the narrative. To do that, they don't invite you just because you are Tibetan or you have a position. News media, what they look for is you're presentable. Someone can say things precisely. Someone can give you news. Someone can give you insights. That's what they look. Because they say you have only 4 minutes. BBC said you have only 4 minutes. Okay? In fact, if you check, it's only 3 minutes and 36 seconds. And you have to say everything. The questions and the answer. Right? So it's not that easy. So something is 4 minutes, 6 minute segments, 8 minute segments, 12 minutes. If you have 20 minute segments, no problem. So to control the narrative, you must study your issue thoroughly. And if you know your issue thoroughly, whatever questions they put you, in this news media, they didn't give you questions ahead of time. They just asked you right then and there. In fact, I was put off because if you listen to this London radio, okay, I thought she's going to ask me about reincarnation and geopolitics, and she said, "What is His Holiness like?" I said, "What? You know, I never thought about that. You know, and how do you see him?" Something like that. You know, it's like, what are you asking me? You know, I thought I was gung ho on reincarnation, geopolitics, China. It's like, you know, tell us something about His Holiness Dalai Lama. You know, I was like, I had to rethink then and there, but answer, you know. I hope once that YouTube is available, I want to watch myself, you know, how I answer that question. Because 90% was on reincarnation. Only that one was at a very personal level. So, to control the narrative, you must study well. So, Palestinians, they have controlled the narrative. They have put their story out there ahead of time. Now, on the one hand, it's true. Now, China and, you know, CIA propaganda and all that, this is the age-old Chinese tactic and strategy. That has failed. Till 2016, everybody wanted to do business with China. They wanted to invest in China. They wanted to be friends with China, right? They control the narrative. I saw that. It was so difficult to people listen to you. But since 2016, image of China has changed now. In Canada, you can do this research. Okay, PEW, okay, survey. 65% of Canadians had favorable views of China in 2015-16. Check. Now it has changed. I think it's around 20%. Now 60% has negative views of China. So now it has become easier for us to put our narrative out there. Okay. Now you work for SFT. It's very good. You should keep doing that. But you must form coalition with others. Bring along Uyghurs and Hong Kong and, you know, Mongolians and others and Taiwanese. Why I say this is because it's a fact now. They are in the news, we are not in the news. But we are the elder brother. We laid out the groundwork for them. We put our narrative out there for so long. When Uyghurs came out, I tell them, Hong Kong came out, when they say, oh, Chinese government is mistreating us, they say, exactly, they mistreated Tibetans, now they're mistreating you, right? So by building this coalition, what happens is that you are not talking about Chinese and Tibet as an exception. Yeah, they're bad to Tibetans, otherwise Chinese are good. No, they are not only bad to us, they're bad to Uyghurs and Mongolians and Hong Kongers and Taiwanese as well. So this is a pattern, this is a system that you see. And this is the Chinese world order. recently I gave a talk at, I'm not trying to promote my social media, okay? If you check the Liberty Conference, LibertyCon in Europe, this is the largest liberty students organization. They have branches in 67 countries, right? They have 4,000 events a year all over the world. This is the biggest meeting, and I was the plenary speaker, and I was talking about Chinese world order. Okay, what is Chinese world order? So that's the narrative we must build. And I say, in Chinese world order, a foreign minister can disappear, and no one can ask question about it. And if President Xi Jinping appoints defense minister, he disappears, no one can ask question about it. And as general is appointed, disappears. Another general is appointed, disappears. No one can ask about it. That is Chinese world order. Chinese police station, there are 102 Chinese police stations in 62 countries around the world. Can you imagine, including in Toronto, there's a Chinese police station monitoring Tibetans in Chinese. And the surveillance systems are sold in 86 countries. Chinese surveillance cameras sold. This is Chinese world order, right? And elite cooptation, they buy you journalists, they buy you business people, they buy you politicians. So you must come out with this argument. You must know what Chinese world order is. You are the authority. You are a Tibetan. You can speak about Chinese world order because we have witnessed that, we have experienced that for 60 plus years now. And when you do that, in that Chinese world order, this is Tibet, this is how Tibetans are mistreated, and not just us, now they are mistreating people around the world, including you. Canadians, there is a Chinese police station in Toronto. Do you know that? You are being tracked. If you have a Timur, it's a Timur app where you buy all the Chinese cheap goods, your phone is hacked. Chinese government is listening to you. They track you everything. Do you know that? TikTok, it's Chinese. You are giving data to everything to Chinese on a daily basis. Did you know that? So you know the TikTok of America, the CEO said, no, we have nothing to do with Chinese government. This is free and autonomous business outlet, and we are independent of Chinese. That's what the CEO and the president of TikTok said all the time through the US Congress. Now, President Trump is saying, US Congress passed a law saying either you sell TikTok or we're going to ban it. Now they decided to sell it. And President Trump announced that few Americans are going to buy it. What are they waiting for? You know what they're waiting for? They're waiting for the Chinese president to give them permission. Now, if TikTok does not belong or controlled by the Chinese government, why do you need the permission of the Chinese government or Xi Jinping? Right? So, but then if you listen to everybody, TikTok is independent. But that's why I don't have TikTok account. Many of you do. You are being hacked. You are being watched. On a daily basis, you are sending your data to the Chinese government. They know exactly your movement and they feed you information. And you listen to TikTok, you listen to Chinese government. That's how they control the narrative. So there are a lot of things to do, but very important to study. Now we must graduate ourselves from a spokesperson for Tibet to spokesperson for China to spokesperson on international affairs. Then, you get more space and you can control the narrative. Okay? So carry on doing the good things. Yeah.
So my question is, in these changing geopolitical situations around the world, especially through the last few years, as different countries have changed their foreign policy, and obviously China, as you have said, has attempted to gain prominence to #1 superpower over the next few years. How can the Tibetan movement adjust and adapt in these situations and really regain its relevancy and importance in the global stage as other nations have shifted their stances towards China, and China attempts to push back and reassert its dominance. So in these situations, how can Tibetans, both here and all over the world, attempt to really improve their narrative and increase their standing on the global and diplomatic stage?
Yeah, that's a good question, big question. I did answer that, I addressed that previously, but yes, this is a changing landscape. Now you must say, there is American or Western-led world order, right? Now the challenge is Chinese world order, and there's a conflict between the two. Now China is trying to divide the world into their domain and have more alliances. Now where do we fit in? We should fit in. We should challenge Chinese world order, and we should fit in more in the Western world order. Now having said that, if you say the Western world order is the best, it's really good, then no one will listen to you. I always say this. I know Western world order has double standard, hypocrisy, double face. Sometimes they backstab you. There are all kinds of wrongs and mistakes and weaknesses in the Western world order. And we are witness to that, right? Tibetans are supported sometimes, Tibetans not supported sometimes. But any day, this world order is better than the Chinese world order. This world order, the difference is this is a freedom-based world order, right? I can criticize America, American President, American Congress, Canadian Prime Minister, Canadian Congress. I will not go to jail tonight. But in China, if you criticize Chinese world order, Chinese President Xi Jinping, Chinese government, you go to jail. So you must contrast these two world order and reinforce to your friends. They say, hey, Chinese seems nice. No, you have no idea. Okay? First, you must put this. So Tibet in the middle. Why we choose this West-led world order? Not because it's the best, not because it's good to us. There are all kinds of hypocrisy and double standard. But this is a freedom-based world order. At least you can speak your mind. And then you must put Tibet now. For example, before we used to say, oh, Tibet is so important environmentally. Now you must change the language. You should say, Tibet is so important as far as critical minerals are concerned. You're changing the language. We have uranium, we have lithium. 75% of lithium reserve of China is in Tibet. 75% of lithium reserve. Largest copper reserve of China is in Tibet. Do you know Zomda copper mining? Right? So we must change the language. So when you say Tibet, why Tibet is important as far as critical minerals is concerned. Now there's a huge debate going on whether America will support Ukraine or not. America said we will support Ukraine if America is given access to critical minerals of Ukraine. But we can make an argument. We have more critical minerals than Ukraine. And as far as hydropower is concerned. So instead of just saying climate change, right? You should say as resources. And then now, democracy is again, there are more countries that are not democratic than democratic countries in the world. You know that? The more non-democratic is democratic countries. Now we should put forth Tibetan government as an example, as a model in helping democratization of the whole world. As a success. Right? So that's how you should, I'm not saying change the whole thing, but change the language and tactfully put yourself out there. That's how you build alliances. And I'm trying to build alliances among all the exiled communities. Did it help? So you must understand geopolitics. You must understand China. Then you should navigate.
Thank you. Tiwa thamai shoge the motina batso enti jela batso jukdom
and the paper pe gauchu and digala ma tiwa di injile shucho achi shui alan dala loktu man che koto ge che do ani injile shui. So my first question is, given that Tibet offers no direct strategic or economic benefit to most nations, And considering that Tibetans have no political powers or statehood, how can we persuade democratic countries to support the Tibetan cause and raise it in global forums, especially when China uses its influence and tactics to suppress any such discussion? And my second question is, how is cybersecurity in CTA? Kajilana tanda cybersecurity la do tang anzugi lokle taike deja le do ninsong le do digala anzu cybersecurity tesang application bu che do tanda AI ki technology like DeepSeek gyami gi server che and tanda tarjab shuksung bu che do ani kising anzugi thiwa do je kurba na DeepSeek na la ani phebe phedeng ko la je kurdu ani kunzugi leni takta jaim do digi kangi shuksung bu che an jeba maung ba ya documentation in area onzugi ta secret do da phebagi chida confidential in the sama leak chegi chances use sigire and misuse chi sigire samgi dura kemigi so ani tanda CTA khona nala ani phebagi cyber security nala ani shup gyawa na yakudul shwe andi khande na thewa kungi chungsu
August 2011 in November of 2011 I was scheduled to visit Washington DC. And I received an email from a journalist of Time magazine, Hannah Beach. She said, hey Lobsang, we have interviews scheduled and these are the questions I want to ask, and I have sent all the questions in an attachment. And I thought, wow, Time magazine journalist wanting to interview me, you know, and she's sending me all the questions ahead of time. But then I thought, oh, it can't be that easy. And I wrote to her saying, hey Hannah, did you send this email? Did you send all the questions? She said, no, I didn't send it. And clearly it was sent by Chinese to hack my computer. And number two, we sent a confidential memo to the Office of Tibet in Washington DC saying, Ani, when I come to DC, I want to do these things. Okay, I want to meet the senators, congressmen, if possible, Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State. They did my one email. And I was attending the parliament session. When I came back, the email was put in public domain. Our email, can you imagine, it was sent from my office, Kasha, Sikyong office to Office of Tibet, no attachment, nothing. I wouldn't send it to anybody. That email, more term session, hacked. Then we started opening, checking our computers. It was clearly they had already put mole or Trojan during the Trojan drama. Everything that we were sending from our office was hacked. So then we hired cyber experts in the Chevre. Then we put TCRC level, computer center here, we made a major improvement. So before, each time there was a hack, when a computer shuts down, sometimes we have to shut down all the computers of the department. And it's the jail, what we managed to do was we managed to isolate one computer or the hack chesha se jorba in a constant challenge that chochikni kaposaram chesha because Chinese hack even the CIA's and Pentagon office some hack chigudo multi-billion-dollar company some hack chigudo choni, but we could protect as much as possible. So that's why joking, this has become a very famous line, you know. So I told you that when you give talks like that, you must start with, a story or something funny, so that everybody remembers. So last Oslo Freedom Forum, I started speaking and I said, when you send an email to Buddha, what would he say? No attachment, please. Attachment is one of the 3 cardinal sins in Buddhism. So Buddha said 2,500 years ago, no attachment, please. So whenever you receive an email with an attachment, don't open it because Buddha said 2,500 years ago, no attachment, please. So it just went viral, Everybody's like, no attachment, please, no attachment. Can you imagine? There are like 800 people in the room, okay, from 60 plus countries. And then 90% of people remember my speech for one line, no attachment, please. So in fact, there was a big business. Now, many people use this, no attachment, please. Buddha said, everybody using it, they quote me, they give me the credit. So, what I'm trying to say is, Buddhist knowledge is invaluable. What Buddha said 2000 is still relevant today. So you must use catchy phrase like that. How was it? So don't open your attachment. Be careful. Even if it's from your boyfriend or girlfriend, your parents. The cyber security, but we are improving. We keep improving. That can't even yes, how do we put this thing? So, for example, now we are talking about AI. AI is how you connect AI with Tibet. Do you know how to connect? What I say is, China has built 400 dams in Tibet. 400 dams for hydropower. Now they're building the biggest dam, bigger than Yangtze Dam, on the bend between Arunachal Pradesh and Tibet. India is worried. This will be the biggest, and then you should say, this is how you make an argument, how you make Tibet relevant. I said, Tibetans don't need any more energy. We have surplus of energy. We don't need any more dams. But Chinese are building dams to what? To generate power for their data centers. AI data centers. Why China is getting ahead in AI? Because they have data centers which needs energy is coming from Tibet. See, Tibet is important. So you want to defeat China's AI? Look at Tibet. Chinese, their electric vehicle, EV, is so popular, it's so cheap, sold all over the world. Why? 75% of the lithium comes from Tibet. Now, rare earth, US-China trade relationship, rare earth, because of rare earth, even US had to open up tariff negotiation with China. 90% of the rare earth of China comes from Inner Mongolia. So we are that valuable. China is getting ahead in AI because of our hydropower. Because of our lithium, the EV is ahead. Because of rare earth of Inner Mongolia, they are ahead in missile technology. So we are relevant. And I always say, when I go to India, I say, look at this Big Ben, they're building the biggest dam. If you listen to my interviews in Indian media, I always say, you made a mistake by calling Indo-China border. Now you're asking me and saying, why Chinese soldiers are coming to Galwan Valley and Doklam and inside Indian territory? Because you say it's India-China's border, Chinese troops will come to China's border. You invited them. If you call it Indo-Tibet border, we will speak for you. We say, you have none of your business, this is Tibet, I am Tibetan, why are you building soldiers here? You call China's border, you're invited. Then the Indian media, they start changing it now. They always ask me, what can we do? I said, recognize Tibetan government exile. Call it Indo-Tibet border. Don't say Tibet is part of autonomous region of China. Say Tibet was independent. So this discourse has to happen. You have to change the narrative. You must put Tibet in the context of India's benefit, South Asian benefit, global benefit. That's how you build narrative. So each time there is a major issue, you just say, how can I connect this to Tibet? If you just say, oh, human rights, freedom, we are suffering, they torture us, that has less sympathy nowadays. So constantly, that's why I say, always study, and plan more. And then, do you know hydropower cheswa, dams built cheswa? So I've been studying. And now there's a direct correlation between building dams and earthquakes. Why there was earthquake in Tingri? Why there was earthquake in Yushu?
Global warming.
Not global warming. Building of dams. You build dams, what happens is that the dam, there's a wall. And then you keep all the water. Water starts seeping through soil. Even rocks, soft rock now, so it starts seeping through. Then there's a Himalayan belt, Tibet is number 4. Earthquake prone zone. There's a grade number 1, 2, 3. 4 is the highest, most dangerous. So you build 400 dams and water is seeping through the soil and it creates earthquake. Tana, how I make it relevant? Okay, Dingri the Chaswa. Then you do more research. Earthquake in Afghanistan, earthquake in Pakistan, earthquake in Nepal, earthquake Burma. All are connected to building dams in Tibet. Lara, and Pakistan, what? It's true. That's how then I made this presentation last year in November in Balipara Foundation, Assam. Himalayan region experts Malaysia. That's why environment is so relevant. No more dams in Tibet. You build allies. They speak for you. Because if you build dams in Tibet, there will be earthquake in Nepal. Nepal, you suffer so much. Again, it's not dying of people, okay? Dying the 100 people died. Assam earthquake, 1,000 people died. That's very sad, unfortunate. But actually, the biggest damage of earthquake is the destruction of properties. Billions of dollars. You build a house, once that's demolished, life-saving sasarwa. So that's why Tibet is important. And Himalaya, Afghanistan, the Pakistan, so this is how you build your narrative, make yourself relevant. And so constantly, that's how you think. And then you should know, we should read our own history. How many of you have read The Political History of Tibet, book by Shagaba? So not many know. Now Shagaba wrote a letter to Prime Minister of India, Nehru, those days, and in which he said, today, between India and Tibet's border, there are only 80 soldiers from Tibetan side guarding the border of Tibet. Can you imagine? If India doesn't support us now, India will pay more price than Tibetans. We lose our country. Now, how many Indian troops are there in the border of, India? 500,000. When Tibet was independent, there were only 80 soldiers. Now, India has put 500,000, sometimes 1 million. How many billions of dollars they are spending? If Tibet was independent, they don't have to spend all the money. So this is how then India said, oh my goodness, this is a mistake. So in the latest India Today global interview, journalists asked me point blank, so did India make a mistake by recognizing Tibet as autonomous region of China? Now this Indian journalists asking this question because you've been building this narrative, and I said, absolutely. So this is how you change it. And then one example, so Doklam happened in 2017, Galwan happened in 2020 May. So the Indian Chinese troops came into and beat up Indian troops and injured 100 plus and killed 13 or so. When they asked me this question, says, why is Chinese doing this? The Chinese are China, they're bad, they're killing. No, I said no. Mao Zedong and Chinese leaders said in 1950s, we must occupy Tibet, and Tibet is the palm. Then we go after 5 fingers, Ladakh and Nepal, Bhutan, Sikkim and Arunachal. Now they are coming after 5 fingers. They've been saying for 60 years, we've been saying for 60 years, you never listen to us. Now look at, Galwan is in Ladakh, Doklam is in Sikkim and Arunachal. They're coming. We told you 60 years ago. Now, you read, you Google, China's 5-finger strategy, quote unquote, Lobsang Sangay Thungre. It was there. Woman la de verta. Allah sarkila. Tatinga tongrwa. Chiglap. China and 5-finger strategy. China is 5. They're coming after 5 fingers. They're coming to all the neighbors of India. Oh, they're coming. Their expansionist empire. You change the narrative. Chimilandu, oh, Galvan, Dukcha, the Gamin, the Marab, they are so bad, they are terrible. They beat up Indian soldiers, they kill Indian soldiers. That's bad, Lavina. It's just a small story. And tomorrow you disappear. So when Galvan Valley happened, I appeared on almost 50 Indian national television, hundreds of newspapers. Why? Because you build a narrative. And then discourse in India changes. So one could do that, but you have to study and you have to constantly think. Now I'm coming with a bigger argument. You're at the top level. Final question there. Okay. Slowly I warm up, you know. Then the last hour just put the last 1 hour clip, okay? That is not just second demand to you. The Shime Tango Lobsang, Lobsang put to Sangbo the chair. Yep.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tenzi Ishii.
And my name is Nathan McMausling.
And we are 2 of the 9 interns at TCCC this summer. On behalf of everyone here, it is an immense honor to extend our heartfelt gratitude to former Sikyong Dr. Lobsang Sangay for joining us today. Your presence means so much to our community and especially to our youth. Your unwavering dedication to the Tibetan cause and your inspiring leadership continue to motivate the next generation to remain rooted in their identity while striving for excellence and justice in all that they do. Thank you for taking your time today to be with us and for sharing your insight and wisdom. I would also like to express our deep appreciation for the Parents Association of TCCC. Your support, care, and commitment to our youth and community does not go unnoticed. You've been instrumental in making today's event possible, and we are truly grateful for everything that you do behind the scenes.
A special thank you to the IT committee led by Tashi Langdubla, as well as our Sunday school staff, and of course our students. The work you do each week instills values, language, and a strong sense of identity in our children. And of course, a big thank you to all of the youth who showed up today. You're the reason we do this work. Your curiosity, your voices, and your dedication to learning about our culture, identity, and value gives us hope and purpose. Thank you once again for everyone for being here and making today's event such a meaningful one.
We would now like to have a photo session, so we invite all the youth to come just up to the front.